I am very much a product of my grandparents. Both sides, Pentecostal, had their kids in church every time the church was open. Of course, in their day, there was nothing else to do. I mean, let's face facts. Milk the cows or go to church. Well, you know what it was. Milk the cows and go to church. Right? I'm very much a product of my parents. My spiritual life. I hear my kids say that I sound just like my dad. I do. And that is bad news for my children because sometimes they sound just like me. Ha ha ha. I love it when you call my house and one of the boys answers the phone and you think it's me. I'll never let my boys forget that. You sound like me. You act like me. You talk like me. You are me. Nah, 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 nah. I am very much a product of my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents. But my prayer to God is, daily, keep my boys. Save my boys. For seriously, order every step in their life. Choose, Lord, the right mate for them. Choose, Lord, the right job for them. Choose the right path. Choose the right way. I'm all about that. I want generations after me to do what generations before me did. And I don't want to be a stumbling block in that order. I don't want to be a stumbling block in that order that I would cause a future generation to stumble. But rather, to fear the Lord, to keep His commandments, to keep His statutes. You and your sons and your sons' sons, generations, fear Him. Number 2. Keep His commandments, again, is repeated. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 6. Therefore, thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, to walk in His ways, and to fear Him. I've been watching little children lately, and different stores and restaurants and what have you, and I've come to the conclusion that somewhere along there, about 18 months, the terrible twos began. And these children, all of a sudden at 18 months, have a mind of their own. No. Prominent word in the vocabulary. Or I want this and I want that, and that's followed by a and at my age, it drives me crazy. I have a cure for I have a cure for that. Greatest thing in the whole world. One of my boys hear something like that in a restaurant, and they'll speak to Esther and I, and they'll say, "We're sure glad you beat that out of us." Man, what I endured and what my boys endured, they call that abuse in this day and age. But it was loving abuse. And it worked. It worked. Thank God it worked. You got to realize that spiritually speaking, a lot of us are like those kids. We want our way now. We've got a mind of our own. We're going to do it our way. And if we don't get our way,
it's true. Come on.
Only thing worse than seeing a child pitch a fit. Watch an adult pitch one. I had one yesterday on the road pitched a fit with me. He said I was the #1 driver in Johnson County. honked at me real friendly like. like he wanted my attention. No, it's an ugly thing to see a child pitch a fit. It's a horrible thing to see an adult pitch a fit. I mean, I just want to go over there and give him a holy smack. Here, this is from my mama. You can't have a mind of your own. You can't do it your own way. You've got to keep His commandments. And what does the word say here? You've got to walk in His ways. But I want to go out there and play on the street. You can't do it. It's not safe. You'll be hurt. You'll be killed. You can't do it. So the parent sets the rule. And you got to follow that rule, or you might well perish. Keep His commandments, walk in His ways, and what? Fear Him. If you were to read all of chapter 8 today, you would find that this is God's covenant with Israel. He says things like this. In verse 1, He says, observe to do His commandments. In verse 2, He says, remember all the way which the Lord thy God has led thee. In verse 5, He said, consider in thine heart. Verse 6, keep the commandments of the Lord thy God. Verse 6, walk in His ways. Verse 6, fear Him. Verse 10, bless the Lord thy God. Verse 11, forget not the Lord thy God. Verse 18, remember the Lord thy God. And the result, if you don't, in verses 19 and 20 is this. If you don't do these things, you'll perish. You'll perish. Why did I not want my children playing in the road? Didn't want them to get hurt.
That's right.
Wanted them to live. Why does God set commandments, parameters around our life? He doesn't want you to get hurt. He doesn't want you to die. He doesn't want you to spend eternity in hell.
That's right.
And so He gives His command, His covenant. And if we'll observe it, remember it, consider it, keep it, walk in it, fear Him, bless Him, forget Him, don't forget Him, and remember these things, you'll not perish.
Amen.
You'll live. There's blessing in keeping the command of God. Let me say it again. There's blessing. I said there's blessing in keeping the command of God. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 58. These are on the sheet that you were handed also. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law. How many words? All the words. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest, say it with me, fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God. He's not my good buddy. He's my God. Yes. I guarantee you, when you get to heaven, you're not going to walk up to God's throne and say, hey, God, give me a high five. You're not going to do that. The Bible tells us exactly what we're going to do. We're going to fall on our faces.
That's right. Amen. Amen.
We're going to cast our crowns at His feet.
Amen.
Oh, church, to fear the Lord, that's the beginning of wisdom.
Amen. That's right.
It's going to be that way when we're there in heaven above. We need to recognize that there's not only fear. Catch the word of the Lord here. There's fear of His glorious and fearful name. Now, the world that you live in is different even than the world I live in. I live in a very sheltered world. Most of the time I spend is with the saints. That's cool. I wouldn't trade my job for your job 8 days a week. It's hard enough living with the saints.